understand it, are empowered to visit and inspect CBP and ICE sites. This is a law that you had some involvement in, right?
Yeah, that's right. I do know a lot about this because I actually helped pass this into law a number of years ago. And the origin of that was when I first came into office in 2019. I have a big ICE detention facility in my district, and I went to do oversight of that facility, and they wouldn't let me in. They simply wouldn't let me in. And that was wrong. I was a member of Congress, and I showed up to the Space Force base in my district. I showed up to the VA hospital in my district. And when I showed up to the ICE detention facility, which is run by a private company called GEO, which some of you may have heard of, they refused entry not once, not twice, but 3 times. So that really pissed me off, to put it mildly. And my team and I did some research, and we found out that there was nothing in the law that required them to allow a member of Congress in. So we inserted into the appropriations bill that year and every year since a requirement that says ICE, CBP, and HHS facilities, whether they're privately run or government run, have to allow members of Congress immediate access to these facilities.
This most recent confrontation at the facility in New Jersey leaves a lot of us with the impression that the administration is looking to provoke in this kind of way. There is no hint of an apology or any kind of shame on behalf of the administration or ICE or CBP. It's almost as if they relish the confrontation. They think they have somehow the winning side of this argument. And I'll go back to Serwer's observation. The cruelty seems to be the point.
Yeah, because this is the exercise or the attempt to exercise power, right? So the moment I think we're in right now is the Trump administration is trying to assert more power than they have. They're trying to consolidate it. They're trying to grab it from people. And when they do that, when these administrations, when these leaders try to seize power from a democracy, what they're doing is they're pushing the boundaries of law, they're breaking the law, and they're seeing who will push back, who will establish a boundary. And with every boundary that is not maintained, they gain more power sequentially, time over time. And that's really the process we're going through right now is they are relatively weak. Donald Trump is relatively weak. He's lost more court cases than he's won by a pretty large margin. There's a substantial amount of infighting in the Trump administration itself. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to seize power from our institutions. That's what we're seeing. So yes, it is absolutely intentional. And that's why it's really important that we don't allow any of these things to pass. We push back on all of them, and we fight for every square inch of these democratic boundaries.
That infighting within the Trump administration that you're referring to, that's not disagreement over policy. That's more personal and ego-driven. And I'm guessing it's about turf more than it is about those who want to protect civil rights and those who don't.
Well, it's a little bit of both. I think you're largely right. Donald Trump and those around him are largely driven by personal grievance, by the desire for power, the corruption. It's self-interest in one form or another, whether it's their ego, whether it's their grievance, whether it's to pad their pockets. Self-interest is what drives most of what happens in the Trump administration. But there is some ideological battle happening right now. There's the faction between some of the traditional defense hawks, I think you would tell them, and folks that believe in global engagement, in the isolationist retrenchment faction of the Trump administration, kind of led by J.D. Vance and his acolytes.
There's not enough men like me who do whatever they want.
Are you sick of it yet?
Those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty.
The anger.
Charlie. I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk. I live as a capitalist.
The hate.
And we have a system of checks and balances. That's a good one. That's really funny. We do?
The idea that to be a man, you have to be a bully.
Fuck you!
We should be better than this.
Females don't have independent thought. They don't come up with anything.
Our kids deserve better than this.
It's like women want equal rights when it's convenient, but then they still want the door open for them.
So help us change it. Subscribe to Valor Media Network, where you can find shows on sports, men's health, and patriotism without the resentment and division.
True strength is about discipline, resilience, and service.
If you've wondered where all the positive role models are, especially for young men, check out Navy SEAL Dan Barkoff and Commander Bobby Jones as they share stories of service and sacrifice.
Being good at being a man is about what you do for others and not what you do for yourself.
Listen to Jason Kander and co-hosts Ravi Gupta and Adisu Demisi give you the inside track on the politics of sports.
I just want to take back what I said about the Bills. No, because in all honesty, your team seems to have gotten the vaccination thing right. Okay. My team seems to be struggling with it.
These shows and many more from Valor Media Network prove that you don't have to be an asshole to connect with young men today. Subscribe to Valor Media Network today. It seems like on immigration, though, the president has his party by the throat. And when we have talked in the past, you have alluded to some of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle who have been looking for ways to push back. I get the sense there isn't a lot of that left. Like the Republican caucus has been cowed, and it is fully a tool of the executive these days.
Yeah, I think that's true. They have fully prostrated themselves to the altar of Donald Trump. Is undoubtedly true. And, the people who are pushing back are either retiring members, so there's no courage there, or people who are in Democratic districts, the Joe Biden one. So they're simply trying to survive. So there's really no courage when it's in your self-interest to push back because you're just trying to survive, or it doesn't matter anymore and you're on the way out the door. That's not really political courage. Political courage is when there's a cost to it. And I just can't point to any examples of people who are willing to incur that cost against Donald Trump that stands up to him.
The administration's strategy on issues like this, and we'll stick with immigration, seems to be to target what they perceive as unsympathetic characters so that they can win the battle for public opinion. But then there's a creep. There always is. There's the slippery slope. And now we have suggestions that they're contemplating ending habeas corpus. It's not a suggestion. Stephen Miller, the most senior advisor to Donald Trump, said we're looking at ending habeas corpus. They're talking about prosecuting people like you and your colleagues for doing your jobs. How bad is this going to get?
Well, we're slightly over 100 days. So we're not even a third of the way through the first year of a 4-year term. So it could get pretty bad. I'm not doing anybody any favors by downplaying the threat, by just being soft on this. I think we have to prepare for the onslaught to continue over a very long period of time. And you look at the institutions and the guardrails that have already failed just in 100 days. It's pretty shocking when you think about the speed at which things have dissolved in Washington. So the sobering reality is it could get pretty bad. That's why we have to make sure that we are joining forces with people of common cause. I always say there's strength in numbers. It's one thing for the Trump administration to try to pick off law firms one at a time, or pick on universities one at a time, or members of Congress one at a time. But when they all come together, when you've seen what happened, after the MOU with a few of those law firms that frankly capitulated to Donald Trump, then the rest said, all right, well, we're going to band together and we're going to stop this. Same thing with universities. You see that happening, state attorneys general and governors, and also members of Congress. So long way of saying there are strengths within numbers. We have to stick together. And when people are united, or people of common cause are united, then it becomes much, much harder for them to pick folks off one at a time.
If I'm not a university president or a partner at a major law firm, what can I do? I get that question a lot. What can ordinary Americans do to join forces?
Well, I always say that citizen oversight right now means a lot. So I'll be honest with you, being a member of Congress and trying to exercise my oversight powers under Republican control has been very hard. right? The number of hearings has been very low. They haven't called contentious hearings. They're not allowing the issuance of subpoenas. The Republicans who control the day-to-day and control the committees are not doing really